Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome back for another card video. Today's video uses one of the new products by Simon Says Stamp called Ice Cream. It's just a set of dies with some scoops and an ice cream cone. And then I have Slang Gang here by Paper Smooches, which I've used quite a bit. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut out some of these dies on some Neenah Solar White cardstock. I'm also using the ice cream cone here, and I'll show you after this card is done how I colored that. Now I'm going to go ahead and start coloring my ice cream scoops. This one's going to be strawberry, and I'm going to cover the whole thing with R81 first. And then I'm going to take my darkest color, R85, and I'll color a bigger width on the left-hand side than I do on the right-hand side. This is just something I typically do, as my light source is usually on the right-hand side, so I get a little bit more dark shadow on the left than I do on the right. So I'll do that with my R85, and now I'm going to go in with my R83 and blend that towards the center, kind of leaving an area in the middle to be colored in with the R81. So here I have the R81 again. I'm just going to fill that hole. And then I'd like to go in on the edges with the darkest color just one more time, that R85, just to make it pop a little. Now I want to add a little bit more realism to this ice cream scoop. So I'm taking a Faber-Castell Pitt pen that's in white. I just create a bunch of dots and then I rub it with my finger, and it just creates this reflection looking thing on my ice cream scoop. And the ink comes out more like it's like a paint pen almost. Okay, so now moving on to my mint or pistachio, whatever is your favorite. And my greens didn't, my light and medium greens, I was happy with the way those went together. But the dark one, I don't know, it just wasn't exactly the way I wanted, but it was the closest thing I had to something that matched. So this is called making do with what you have. So I use the same technique, coloring the whole thing first with the light color, and then I highlighted with the dark, blended that in toward the light. And then I'm going to cover it one more time with this G00 color, which is definitely minty looking. And then I'm going to use that pen again, the paint pen, and I'm going to create that reflection mark. So it's just a dot, dot, dot quick, and then I rub it with my fingers and it dries really fast. And then finally I have chocolate, and I'm going to do the same exact thing here, E13. And this I think is my favorite, the way it came out. And then I have E27 for my darkest. And then I'll move in with some E25, and I'll do that same exact reflection thing with my pen. So I'll let you go ahead and watch that while I turn up the music. Now for my bowl, I wanted to create kind of a hand-painted ceramic bowl. So I took my Y15 and I'm just freehanding these lines here so that it does look actually hand-painted. And I'm curving them just a little bit as I get toward the edge. I'm curving them a little bit more. And then I'm going to take a C1, which is just a very, very light gray, and I'm going to go over this. Now, I did let the Y15 dry a little bit so it would set in my paper and it wouldn't mix too much with the C1. So let that dry, and now I'm kind of coming in on the sides and on the bottom and a little bit on the top, just to create more of a rounded look for this bowl. And then to finish it off, I wanted my stripes to pop just a little bit more. So I took a Daffodil Delight Stampin' Up! Marker, and I just drew a line with the fine tip side on each side of my yellow stripes. And this just really added a little extra pop to the hand-painted lines. And where it had blended a little bit with the C1, it really made the yellow come back out. So I'm just going to go along every single line here. Now you could just leave it like this. I really like the way the ice cream scoops look, but I thought it was a little boring, and so I decided to add some chocolate syrup. And to do that, I took a chocolate chip marker. I'm going to make sure that all my scoops are facing the exact way I'm going to place them in the bowl with that white mark kind of in the upper right quadrant. So I'm going to carefully draw this squiggly line for my hot fudge, and then I'll color it in with the marker. And you'll see that you can see that white mark from the Faber-Castell pen. That didn't bother me, and I liked having what was remaining of that white mark. So even though you can sort of see through it a little bit with the hot fudge, it didn't bother me. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do this for all of them. And when I drip it down, I'm going to try to drip it a little bit, not so even. So up and down, and maybe short ones and long ones, and get it all covered at the top. Now I'm going to show you here, these are the beads that I'm going to use on top. So I've got the pink for the pink, the green for the green, and then I just went with some silver for the chocolate. And these are just micro beads. I'm not sure where I got them. I got them at the convention that we had here locally, a scrapbook convention. I don't have the name of them. I threw away the packaging. But anyway, you can use any kind of micro bead here. And I'm just going to cover the whole thing with some glossy accents. And then I'm going to grab my Tupperware to make sure that these beads don't go all over the table. And I'm just going to sprinkle. You don't want to cover the whole thing. I think I probably put on a little bit too much, but you definitely want to be able to see the fudge underneath. You don't want to cover the whole thing with the sprinkles. So I'm going to let that dry, and I'm going to do all these the same exact way. So some glossy accents, and then I've got my green micro beads for the mint, and then the chocolate scoop has the silver. And I really liked how shiny this was, and it looked really realistic actually. Okay, so this is my card base, and I've got some cracked pistachio, which is the new color, and walnut stain, and I'm going to put those on my craft mat. You can see how juicy the pistachio is already because it's so new. And I'm going to spritz it with some water, and then I'll grab a brush. And it was, I think, a little bit more watery than I was planning on, and so the drops came out a little bit bigger than I thought they were going to come out. So I was a little bit more careful with the brown. And then the first time I made this card, I made too many drops. So you want to be careful not to put too many drops, because you can easily overdo it, and then it just looks like a paint splattered room, and it just doesn't look very good. But anyway, so be careful with that. Now I'm going to put my scoops in my bowl, and I put the adhesive on the bowl, and then I just put it on top of the scoops. And then for the green one, I put it on top, and then I placed the first two scoops on top of it, and I didn't like it, so I took it off, and then I put it in exactly the same location. Okay, so now I'm going to take my card base, and I'm going to use that marker I used to create the hot fudge, which is my chocolate chip, and I'm going to draw. And I purposely made this a little off, like squiggly, because I wanted to have two lines that I was going to draw, and I wanted them to kind of weave in and out of each other. So I was doing my best not to go off the paper, which is kind of hard when you're trying to make a squiggly line. And I went off one time, but I didn't think it was that big of a deal. But I like kind of the hand-drawn messy look. Now I'm going to secure this into my MISTI because it is a card base, so it's folded, and I didn't want it popping up. And I'm going to figure out where I'm going to put my sundae, and then I'll put my sentiment right underneath it. Now I wanted to keep my background pretty simple because I wanted the focus to really be on the ice cream. And then I have the sentiment Chillax, which I thought was perfect for the ice cream. I'm going to ink that up with some VersaFine sepia. So it's kind of a brownish, more of a light brown. And then I'll go ahead and add my ice cream with some foam dimensionals by Stampin' Up. And that's it for the card today. So I also created another ice cream scoop in vanilla that I didn't use, and so I decided to take that and create an ice cream cone lunch note for my daughter. And this is the cone I created, and I'm going to show you how I colored it. So I forgot to start the camera, but all I did was just cover this whole thing with E55. And then I'm using basically the same technique that I used to color my ice cream scoops. So I'm going to color the outsides in the E59, and then I'll blend in a little bit with the E57, and then finally I'll finish it off with my E55 again. Now the next step is to take this colorless blender, the chisel tip, and I'm going to move my cone at an angle, and I'm going to create almost curved lines. So it's not a circle, it's just more of a very slight curve from the corner, and I'm trying to make these equidistant, and this is in real time, so you can see how much time I'm spending. I'm not leaving the marker on the paper for too long because then I'll take out too much color. So it's just going to do this all the way to the bottom. And so then I'm going to rotate it to the other side, and I'm going to start on the other corner doing the same exact thing. And by making my lines curved, it's creating the illusion that this cone is rounded. So I'm going to go all the way to the bottom, leaving the same amount of space, or at least trying to leave the same amount of space between each line. And I was really excited the way this cone came out. It looks really realistic. And then I did the vanilla ice cream scoop, and there's a picture on my blog post with a little sentiment for her. And so that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the card and also the cone, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.